Hey, Behavior Addictions. This is Christina. I wanted to go over some things with you guys from week one. I thought I would do it again in a video. The first thing I want to say is good job for your first week of discussions. I'm really impressed. Some things that I'm paying attention to and want you to pay attention to as well are that I really want you to have a works cited at the end of each of your posts. So whether that's the Bible or a resource that I've given you, such as your course textbook, or it's a source that you've used outside, the reason I want you to put it right there is at the end of this course, you're going to be able to print out each of your discussion posts and threads, and you and your peers are going to have access to where you got each of the information, all of the stuff that you're talking about. You're going to have a tool for you. And so it's really important to me that you're doing that. Plus, it's good college level work. The other thing I want to say is it's really easy when I say to you, I want you to have a question at the end of each of your posts. It's really easy to just kind of throw out a question of, well, what do you think of that? Or throw out a question about, well, how would you solve this behavior addiction problem? But it's really important to me that you stay focused in the discussion thread. We're going to have a lot of different discussions throughout this time. So again, I want to emphasize your questions need to stay focused on the discussion thread. From a philosophical standpoint, I really wanted to talk to you guys about aloneness. Some of you have read Dr. David Ferguson's book, The Great Commandment Principle. Others of you are just joining in on the addictions track and you have it as a course resource. My encouragement would be for you to read the first couple chapters. It's really foundational for the material that I want you to understand. And so, whether you're in a secular world or whether you're in a Christian world, his principles are key and they're on point. See, he starts off with the principle that before there was a problem with sin, there was a problem with being alone. And so what we know is that Adam was alive. He had the perfect relationship with God. He had the perfect relationship with all of creation. Everything was good. Everything was perfect. And a lot of times we think, oh, if I just got right with God, I'd be good. Or if my body was just right and I did the right things and I wasn't a sinner, I'd be good. But that's not what's happening. In Scripture, we see before there was a problem, even with sin, God said it wasn't good for Adam to be alone. It's not good for mankind to be alone. See, we're created to be with one another. We're created to be in community. And so oftentimes when we see clients in front of us, regardless of what their problem is, they could be an axe murderer, they could be a child molester, they could struggle with addiction, or they could struggle with depression, or they could struggle with grief. It doesn't matter. When you're sitting in front of them, the problem that we always have in common is that we feel alone. Because God did not make us to feel alone. And when humans feel alone, it's a problem and it multiplies into other problems. And so in this course, it's going to be really important that you understand this principle, whether you're working in the secular world or whether you're working in the Christian world, that before you start dealing with the behavior, before you start dealing with the problem, you have to deal with the condition of what's going on inside the person. And as that is that they feel alone. See, in behavior addictions, I'm going to be talking to you guys about finding the roots, and I want to talk about it in comparison to a tree. So a tree has fruit, it has leaves, it has branches, it has a trunk, and it has roots. When we're talking about behavior addictions, the behaviors, the addiction, all that is a fruit. And if we take a fruit off of a tree, the fruit grows back the next season. It doesn't do anything. So we can be clinicians that deal with fruit all day long, and we can be really good at picking all sorts of fruit off of trees for people, but it doesn't solve the problem. So what is the problem, you must say? Well, if you're not going to deal with the fruit of the tree, you got to deal with the leaves of the tree. But that's not going to cut it. You can even cut off the branches and say, oh, it won't grow back on those branches. Or maybe you even get bolder and you say, I want to cut it off right at the stump. I'm not interested in any of those things. What I'm interested in is at the root. And at the root of things is that people feel alone, they feel rejected, and they feel like they can't change. There are things that come to us, things that have happened to us, things that we have done to other people as a result of our own actions and our own sin, things that have been done to us generationally, just stuck in the same patterns, or even words spoken over us. All of those things have power to grow up and produce all sorts of fruit in our lives, namely behavior addiction. Some of that includes biological things, and hopefully we're going to look at that this week, and so you can see that just behaviors don't just have a mystery appearance. They have a lot of conditions that are met biologically in them as well. And our brain responds to so many different things when we do them over and over again. So, I'm hoping that as we get into a deeper understanding of defining behavior addictions this week, that you guys are able to kind of take a broader view, and use your book, Sexaholics Anonymous. I know we're studying about sexual addiction in that context, and I know that we're studying in a spiritual context, but I want you to apply it. Okay, we're not just talking about a sexual behavior when we're talking about roots. How does this apply to someone who might be struggling with gambling or shopping addiction? Or some of the self harming addictions that might be out there. I want you to compare it. I want you to look at some other resources and relate them to each other. It's really just meant to be a guide and a starting point. And also, what are the spiritual principles that translate into the secular world? What are the secular principles that translate into the spiritual world, the Christian world? I'm not opposed to either one. I want you guys to fight for information and fight for context here. Taking an extreme view in a subject that you don't know a lot about is dangerous. It limits your ability to offer hope to people. So, again, as we're moving into week 2, I hope this is helpful to you. I hope you kind of understand a little bit about the philosophy of aloneness. And I look forward to interacting with you this week.